Well, with us now is the Shadow Business Secretary, Chuka Umunna. Thanks very much for coming in.
Good to be here.
First off, can you make the same guarantee as the Prime Minister today? If you win the election in 2015, will you keep the triple lock on state pensions?
Well, look, we're committed to the triple lock in principle, the pension triple lock. I think there's a degree of cross-party consensus, which is something that's welcome on that. In terms of what we commit to in 2015, me as a sole member of the Shadow Cabinet signing us up to a range of policies in 2015 without consulting my colleagues wouldn't be responsible. But I hope through saying that we're in favour of it in principle, we're giving your viewers very much a sense of our direction of travel on that.
Anyone thinking that they might be retiring between 2015 and 2020 can only be guaranteed to get a 2.5% rise in their state pension if they vote Tory. If they vote Labour, you can't promise that they'll get that rise.
Well, that depends what happens in 2015, but I can't be clearer than I have been right now, which is in principle we're in favour of this, OK? So I'm trying to give your viewers a sense of our direction of travel on that. The right time to make all these commitments is at the 2015 general election, where we'll put together a fiscally responsible package so everybody can see everything in context.
It's a fascinating thing that we're talking about this, though, because it shows us how the narrative has changed in British politics. We're looking at a nascent economic recovery, and suddenly we're talking about how to spend money, not how to cut it, which is a very, very interesting change in British politics. And you will need to be thinking about this for your 2015 guarantees as well. Who deserves money to be spent on them? Is it pensioners who should be getting this triple lock? Should it be people whose benefits have been cut over the last few years? Should it be hard-working people whose wages have fallen compared to prices over the last few years? Where would you spend the money that we might have?
Let me say three things about that. First of all, I mean, there's pensions, and then there's pensioners' entitlements in general. And we've said, for example, would we continue to pay the winter fuel allowance to the top 5% of the most wealthy pensioners? Would that make sense? No. And we've also said that looking at pensions in the long term and ensuring they're affordable, we will have to raise the retirement age. So that's pensions, if you like. But actually
But this government have already talked about raising the retirement age, so we know that's going to happen.
The two big issues which are going to frame the general election are primarily going to be the cost of living crisis. On average, your viewers have faced a pay cut of £1,600 since 2010. They want to know, what are you going to do about that? Which is why we've talked about our energy freeze, helping people with childcare, 10% rate of income tax. But also, they're going to want to know, in terms of the shape of growth, who is best placed to ensure that it is properly balanced across all of the country. At the moment, it's very much being driven by London and the South East. We want to see economic growth balanced across our country. We need to have more exports. We're not exporting enough. More business investment. And also, of course, it's great that more people are getting into work now. But we actually want to see, I mean, look, any old job for us is not good enough. We want to see your viewers get jobs which are decent, secure, and pay a wage that they can live off, which hence our commitment to a range of measures to promote the living wage. Now, that is about long-term sustainable growth. And that's why we've been talking about things like having an industrial strategy to grow the sectors which will deliver that.
But none of that sounds like pensioners are your priority. You're talking about tax cuts for the lowest paid, getting people into work, and possibly tackling universal benefits that are paid to all pensioners, the winter fuel allowance. Presumably you'd include bus passes in that. It sounds as though you're actually talking about cutting some benefits the pensioners get in order to strengthen spending on other parts of society.
Hang on just a minute. It's not about doing a divide and rule of the different age groups in society.
Inevitably it has to be. When you spend on some, you're not spending on others.
Are you saying to me that our pensioners don't also want to see, for example, their grandchildren get jobs, which is why we're committed to having a compulsory jobs guarantee to ensure that all young people out of work for more than a year, that they are guaranteed a job? I would say that pensioners watching this programme, that's as important to them as a range of other things that help everybody in their family. We're not going to be a divide and rule government. That's why we talk about building a one-nation economy and a one-nation country, because actually we need to help everybody, not just the top 1% at the top that you see the Conservatives often talking about with these tax cuts for people earning £150,000 or more.
OK, and just briefly, we saw there Nigel Farage saying that he's taking voters from the Labour Party as well as the Tories, and we also saw your leader Ed Miliband talking about immigration. Are you worried that you're losing the public battle on immigration?
Well, no, I'm not actually. And the thing is, if you listen to Nigel Farage or many members of the Conservative Party, they will give the impression that the way you address people's immigration concerns, which ultimately are a proxy for their concerns about the economy, you just shut down the border, get out of Europe and solve all the problems. Actually, there's also a bigger issue there, which is that we've got an economy that is too low wage and too low skill, and we want to take firm action to deal with that. We hear nothing from Nigel Farage about that, and very little from the Conservative Party.
OK, Chuka Umunna, thanks very much for coming in to talk to us. Now, you can find more in-depth coverage of that story and of all our politics reports on the Channel 4 News website.